What's up, guys? This is Valentina with Bigger Creations, and today I'm going to show you how I process my vocals. I'm going to show you specifically with one of my songs, the one that I made a beat making video of, which if you want to check out that video, the link's going to be in the description. But this song is called No Feelings, and this is just a little preview of what the vocals sound like.
Mass production, that's what they do. If they could just pack it a bottle and sell it to you. Felt it as soon as you walked in the room. I saw it, tell me that you felt it too. This feeling's just so priceless. No money he could buy this, no, no. This feeling's just so priceless. No money he could buy this, no, no. Cause I had no feelings. Last time I checked, closed my heart up, yes, I locked it and threw away the key. But when you look at me, I only want to be with you right next to me. Cause I had no feelings, last time I checked, I closed my heart up, yes, I locked it and threw away the key. But when you look at me, I only want to be with you right next to me.
So we've got a couple of things going on with the vocals here, and I picked this example specifically because I have a variety of different effects that I use, and so yeah, let me just show you. So first off, one of the things that I personally do every time that I start with a vocal, and you'll see that it says here female lead vocal custom. This is just a preset that I actually made. But I started it from the female lead vocal preset that already exists inside of Logic. So I'm going to show you the raw vocal without the effects on it, just so that you can kind of get an idea of how this evolves as I start layering these different effects on it. So this is it by itself.
Cause I had no feelings. Last time I checked, I closed my heart up. Yes, I locked it and threw away the key. But when you look,
it's not very loud either. And it's not that it was like recorded at low levels. I mean, it's pretty decent. It's not clipping or anything. But the first thing I do is I set up a channel EQ. And that's just by going in here and then doing EQ, channel EQ. And when you do that, it's going to pull up this window. Oops, right here. So this is kind of what I've got going on here. So I'm going to play the vocal with the channel EQ now.
I had no feelings. Last time I checked,
and you'll be able to hear the difference when I turn it on and off. So it's very subtle because we haven't compressed the vocal yet. And by the way, if you hit Analyzer, it'll actually show you what the vocal is doing, what the audio wave is doing. And sometimes that's helpful to see kind of where your voice is as far as your register. You'll learn which frequencies you'd like to emphasize based off of the voice or the type of song, etc., or the effect you're going for. So that's basically what I did with the EQ. And again, don't just copy this because every voice is a little bit different. But in general, this works really well for female vocals is what I found. Okay, so then, now that we've got the EQ in there, I compress it. And we compress multiple times throughout this process, but this is just my initial compressor that I put on there. And by the way, so how I go about, I kind of start with a preset. You could just go to Dynamics, Compressor, and then pull it up. So I personally like the preset that already exists inside of Logic, which if you just go here and then do voice, type R vocal 2, seems to work really well with the vocal. So now that we've got the compressor turned on along with the equalizer, let's take a look.
Cause I had no feelings. Last time I checked, I closed my heart up.
And you'll notice it's not that much compression going on.
It threw away the key, but when you look at me,
but it already sounds more consistent, right? So that makes a huge difference. But that's just kind of the initial compressor I put on the vocals. And then I put a limiter. A limiter is just kind of to help with the volume as well. And this is kind of what the limiter looks like. And if you want to know where to find that, you just go to Dynamics, Limiter, Mono. So these are the settings I have for my vocals. And again, this is the preset that I made for myself. So every time that I produce my vocals, this is the preset that I start with, and then I tweak based off of the song. But most of the time, it's exactly how I want it because I've kind of got my own vocals down to a science. So this is what it sounds like with the limiter on.
Cause I had no feelings last time I checked. I closed my heart up. Yes, I locked it and threw away the key, but...
All right, so then I add an ensemble, and you can find this by just going down here to modulation, ensemble. So this is what my settings look like. And again, this is all just kind of, it's subjective to what kind of sound you want, but you'll notice the difference, or what it actually does to the vocal. It just kind of makes it feel a little bit more present. And you can tweak this. You can make this sound really chorusy, honestly, if you just tweak up the voices and the output to the mix. But this is what it sounds like with the effect.
Cause I had no feelings last time I checked.
And if I turn it off,
closed my heart up. Yes, I locked it and threw away the key.
It's very subtle,
when you
but
look at me,
it does the trick.
I only wanna be.
You'll notice subtleties are what really make the vocals pop in a mix. Then I add some reverb. I like doing Reverb Space Designer. That's the one I usually use for my vocals. And this is what my settings look like. And again, that varies on the song. Definitely like it. I mean, this is a singing vocal. If it were a rapping vocal, I'd probably put this a lot lower. Right now it's at 22, negative 22. If it were a rap, I'd probably put it down like 38. So big difference.
When you look at me, I only want to be with you next to me. Cause I had no feelings.
All right. So that's the basic thing that I do to all of my vocals. Then what I do is I bust out some effects. And so the first thing I do for any of my vocal tracks, just to set it up, and doesn't mean I have to use it on all of them, but the first one is I just bust out an effect, and you just pick whatever bus you have available. In this case, it was bus 7. And then in here, I added a pitch shifter. Pitch shifter. Whoa. So you go to pitch shifter, stereo. And what that effect looks like for me is I do it 2 times. So one, so for this example, it's bus 7. I pull this all the way up to 100 in the mix so that it's only doing the effect. And it defaults to vocals, so you can just leave it there. And basically, I make sure that the semitones is 0 and the cents are +6. And so that's what I do for that one. And then along with that, I actually pan it all the way to the right down here. And then I bust out another effect. And in this instance, it's bus 8. I add the same effect, but I treat it a little differently. I go -6, leave all the other effects the same, and then also pan it all the way to the left down here on the bus. So what that does is basically, as much as you tweak it here on the knobs, you're adding more of this wider effect, almost like you have multiple voices on the track, for that same vocal piece. So I'll show you what that sounds like.
'Cause I had no feelings.
Sounds wider, especially if you're listening with headphones, you'll notice it more. But if I turn it off,
threw away the key, but when you look at me, I only want to be with you next to me.
Kind of adds a little bit of a chorusy sound. And then my last bus that I use is actually a compressor. And what I do is I model it exactly off of the compressor that I got before. So I start with the preset. I go down here to voice, type R vocal 2, and then I turn this knob, which I think it defaults to be like all the way up here. I turn it all the way to -50. And again, this is how I do it. I'm not saying that this is the best way to do it, but this is what I found works for me. And obviously you guys like it. So, and then I turn down the gain quite a bit because otherwise it's super loud in the mix. So now when I add this compressor on top of all of these other effects, now my vocals really are the consistent volume that I'm looking for.
'Cause I had no feelings.
Way louder.
Last time I checked.
And if I add the music,
yes, I locked it and threw away the key, but when you look at me, I only want.
That's for my basic vocal track. Then for my backup vocals, let me show you what those sound like by themselves.
threw away the key, but when you look at me, I only wanna be with you right next to me.
All right, so that's what they sound like. Now, I started with the same bones, same effects here, same buses. You'll notice that my knobs, I actually want my backup vocals to be wider, so I actually turn the volume up on those pitch shifters more than on this track. If you go to the normal track, I only have it at negative 8.2, but on my backup vocals, I've got it on 1.1 for both of them. And that just adds the effect more. And then the other tweaks that I do here is I go into the channel EQ, and then instead of having my preset, I change it to voice backing vocals. And that just helps it so that they kind of sit in the right spot in comparison to the main vocals, and that way they don't compete with each other. They just kind of sit in different spaces. So I do that, and then I go into ensemble, and occasionally, depending on the song and the sound that I want, I mess with how much chorus or ensemble I want on here. So in this case, I switched it from 2 voices to 4 voices, and then from, I think, 10% to 16. So that's what I did here to make it sound more like a backup vocal.
Last time I checked, I closed my heart up. Yes, I locked it and threw away the key. But when you look
see how they're not
at
like
me,
fighting with each other? That's what we want.
You're next to me.
So the other vocal that we have on here has kind of a radio effect.
I had no feelings.
So it goes with the main vocal here. So.
'Cause I had no feelings. Last time I checked, I closed my heart up. Yes, I locked it and threw.
So that's what it sounds like. And to make it sound that way, what I did is I added another bus here. And I added a tape delay. And this is the place that you want to add those kind of effects, because that way you can control how much of the vocal is being exported to that effect to then come to the final output. So I can decide if I were to put the tape delay on this rack of effects, then it would affect the vocal completely. Where if I put it and bus it out, I can actually control how much volume, I guess you could say, I want the effect to take place on the track. So I added a tape delay. These are the settings I have for that. So this is what that sounds like. It's very subtle, and I don't have it high on the volume or anything. But I did that, and then the reason why it sounds like kind of like it's on the phone or like through a walkie-talkie is I added a high-pass filter. And the way you do that is you just go click an arrow to add a plugin, go to Audio Units, Apple, AU high-pass stereo. And that'll pull up this, which is basically like an EQ. So, you know, this is your standard frequency map. And then it's essentially cutting off all of the low frequencies. And you can adjust it, you can move it wherever you want. And it will include only the frequencies that are in blue. So I'm going to undo that. But yeah, so if I were to move it,
close my heart up real good.
See the difference there? So that's what I did for that. And then in this case, I actually experimented with some distortion, but I didn't like how it sounded. I thought that the high pass filter was enough for the effect I was going for. But you could also add distortion to kind of get that background effect.
Mass production, that's what they do. If they could just pack it a bottle and sell it to you. Felt it as soon as you walked.
And I find not doing the pitch shifting on the verses makes the verse stand out a little bit more, where the chorus, you have all these other instruments going on, and so it's helpful for the voice to kind of blend in and feel like there's more than one going on. But on occasion, I actually do a little bit of the pitch shifting technique on the verse vocals. It just kind of depends on the sound that you're looking for the track that you're working on. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I know that you guys have been asking for how I do my vocals, and this is exactly, like, this is the project file that I used in the video where I showed you guys how I made the beat. So I hope this is helpful for you guys. Again, it's not like, there's not just one way to process vocals. It's all dependent on the project, the vocal itself, how it was recorded, the effect that you're looking for. But this is how I process my vocals to get them to sound professional and pop out of my mix. If you guys have any other questions on how I do things, I intend on showing you guys a little bit more behind the scenes on my beat making and producing. So yeah, just let me know in the comments if there's something else that you want to learn, and if I'm able to teach you, then I will. Thank you so much for your support, guys. Don't forget to subscribe if you found this helpful. If you use this technique on one of your tracks, share it with me. I'd love to see the before and after and how it was able to improve your mix. So thank you so much for your support. Don't forget to subscribe and keep making beats.